The psychology of administrative decisions explores the mental processes and behaviors influencing decision-making in organizations. Since Herbert Simon's publication of the book Administrative Behavior, significant advancements have been made in the area of psychology related to administrative decisions. In this video, we'll explore aspects not covered in Simon's book, specifically focusing on three key factors that contribute to decisions deviating from absolute rationality. First, incomplete knowledge and unpredictable consequences. Rational decision-making presupposes having comprehensive knowledge and the ability to foresee all potential outcomes of each option. In reality, however, our understanding of possible consequences is often limited and fragmented. An administrator may decide to implement a new technology without fully understanding its long-term impact on employee productivity and morale. Second, in decision-making, we often find that our decisions are not entirely rational. This is partly due to our difficulty in accurately predicting future results. Imagine an administrator who expects a project will significantly exceed performance goals, but it only delivers modest benefits or none at all. This difference between expected and actual outcomes is called a prediction error in neuroscience. Our brain uses those prediction errors to learn and adapt. How does our brain do that? Our brain relies on dopamine, a neurotransmitter, to signal those prediction errors. Neurotransmitters are chemical messengers in the brain that transmit signals from one neuron to another, influencing our feelings, thoughts, and behaviors. Dopamine is released when we expect rewards or positive outcomes. This expectation encourages us to engage in behaviors that lead to those rewards. When you expect a delicious meal after a long day's work, your brain releases dopamine, motivating you to continue working until you reach your goal. When you expect your supervisor to notice and acknowledge your valuable contributions to a group project, your brain releases dopamine. This expectation serves as a motivational factor, encouraging you to continue putting in your best effort and maintain your enthusiasm for the project. If in reality your supervisor does recognize your contribution, the dopamine release reinforces the positive feelings associated with your hard work. This can lead to increased job satisfaction and motivation to continue performing at a high level. When the actual outcomes surpass expectation, our brain increases dopamine release. This surge in dopamine is associated with feelings of pleasure and satisfaction. It reinforces the idea that our actions or decisions were successful. For example, you've been diligently working on a complex project, and your supervisor surprises you with unexpected recognition of your work during a team meeting. You didn't expect this outcome, so the prediction error, which is the difference between expected and actual outcomes, is very large. To signal this large prediction error, your dopamine system experiences a substantial boost in activity due to the surprise recognition from your supervisor. This unexpected acknowledgement not only validates your efforts, but also intensifies the pleasurable sensations associated with the acknowledgement, further motivating you to excel in your professional efforts. What happens when the actual outcome falls short of expectations? There is a decrease in dopamine release, prompting us to revise our expectations. For example, when you expect a coworker to return a favor, your brain may release dopamine as you anticipate the positive outcome. This anticipation can motivate you to engage in helpful actions and maintain a cooperative work environment. However, if your coworker does not return the favor as expected, the actual outcome falls short of your expectation. In this situation, there is a decrease in dopamine release. This decrease serves as a neurological signal that the expected reward did not occur. This signal prompts you to pay attention to the difference between your expectation and reality. In response to this neurological signal, your cognitive processes come into play. You naturally begin to reevaluate your approach and decisions. You may question whether your initial assumption about your coworker's reciprocation was accurate or if there were miscommunication. The reevaluation process can lead to adjustments in your approach. You may choose to communicate more clearly with your coworker, express your expectations, or even reconsider the nature of your interactions with your coworker. The goal is to bridge the gap between your initial expectation and the actual outcome so that you prevent yourself from experiencing the negative emotional response associated with decreased dopamine, like disappointment or dissatisfaction. This mechanism is important in learning and decision-making because it helps the brain adjust future expectations and behaviors based on past experiences. What's the administrator's role in this process? Administrators must clearly define and communicate the objectives, roles, and responsibilities to their team members. If a project requires certain deliverables by a deadline, administrators should outline those requirements explicitly. This clarity helps in aligning team efforts and provides an environment in which team members can operate. The motivation driven by dopamine release when expectations are met or exceeded can significantly boost productivity and job satisfaction. Administrators should also actively recognize and reward team members when they meet or surpass expectations. This could be through public acknowledgement in meetings, performance bonuses, or personalized feedback. Such recognition triggers dopamine release, reinforcing the positive behaviors and driving further motivation. Effective administrators should also strive to understand what their team members expect from them. This includes maintaining open lines of communication and regularly seeking feedback. For example, if team members expect regular updates on organizational changes, the administrators should ensure this information is provided timely and clearly. Administrators should also establish a system where team members can express their expectations and receive feedback on their performance. This can be achieved through regular one-on-one meetings, performance reviews, or anonymous surveys. This feedback loop helps in adjusting strategies and approaches, improving team dynamics and performance. When there is a gap between expected and actual outcomes, administrators should guide the team in understanding the reasons behind this gap and in developing strategies to address it. Moreover, power can influence the dopamine system. Individuals in positions of power often experience amplified dopamine responses to rewards. This heightened response can have a notable effect on their behavior, particularly in terms of risk-taking and decision. With elevated dopamine levels, people in powerful positions or those who feel powerful may feel a surge of confidence and optimism. Due to increased dopamine responses, they become inclined to make even riskier decisions without fully understanding the potential downsides. At the same time, the dopamine-induced sense of well-being can lead to overconfidence. An administrator may overestimate their own ability, ignoring warning signs or dissenting opinions. This overconfidence can result in overlooking key information or underestimating the complexity of challenges. Being aware of the tendency to overestimate one's ability to predict future outcomes can lead to more cautious decision-making. Leaders should also recognize how their position of power can influence their dopamine responses, potentially skewing their judgment and risk evaluation. The third reason that decisions are not completely rational is restricted range of considered alternatives. Ideally, rationality involves considering all possible options before making decisions. In practice, however, we often consider only a handful of options, limited by our knowledge, experience, and attention. Attention is a limited cognitive resource. This means that when we focus our attention on one thing, we inherently have less capacity to pay attention to others. A project manager focusing intensely on meeting deadlines may overlook other important factors like team morale or quality control. Due to the limited nature of attention, we often consider only a few options that are most salient to us. For example, a leader may concentrate on strategies that have worked in the past, ignoring potentially innovative but less familiar options. The restriction in considered options due to limited attention can lead to suboptimal decisions. To mitigate the effects of attentional limitations, decision makers can adopt strategies like delegating different areas of focus to different team members, using decision support tools, or setting aside specific time to explore and discuss a broader range of options. Effective leaders often balance where and how much attention is allocated. For example, leaders could rotate their attention periodically to different aspects of their work to ensure a more comprehensive understanding and consideration of a wide range of options. A leader's attention can significantly influence what their team pays attention to. If a leader consistently emphasizes cost-cutting, the team is more likely to prioritize options that aligns with this objective, potentially ignoring options that may involve initial investment but offer long-term benefits. Leaders can take steps to ensure a broader range of alternatives is considered. Encouraging a culture of open communication where team members feel comfortable bringing diverse perspectives and options to the table is important. Moreover, leaders can actively seek input from different departments or external stakeholders to expand the range of considered options. The challenge is that feeling powerful turns leaders' attention from others to themselves. Leaders in powerful positions or those who feel powerful tend to pay more attention to their own perspectives, desires, and interests. When individuals attain power, there is often a psychological shift towards self-assurance and assertiveness, which can sometimes translate into a more inward focus. However, the essence of leadership is to motivate a group of people to achieve a common goal. This requires understanding the needs, motivations, and abilities of team members. To motivate the team members, leaders must pay attention to others' perspectives, challenges, and contributions. The tension is that power can make leaders focus more on themselves, but the essence of leadership requires a focus on others. This is why people often change when they are placed in powerful positions. Power can change a person's behavior and attitudes, sometimes leading to a greater focus on personal agendas and reduced empathy for others. To mitigate the potential negative effects of power on leadership behavior, the key is to implement an accountability system with checks and balances. Such systems can help leaders remain grounded, ensuring that their decisions and actions align with the broader goal of the organization and the needs of their team members. Regular feedback mechanisms, transparent decision-making processes, and a culture that encourages ethical behavior and mutual respect are all components of effective checks and balances in the accountability system. But more challenges arise. One notable challenge lies in the resistance of people in position of power to the implementation of accountability measures. Leaders with significant authority may exhibit a sense of entitlement, which can make them more inclined to bend or break rules. When those people are held accountable, particularly by their subordinates, their reactions can be far from constructive. In some cases, they may resort to tactics such as making baseless accusations, engaging in retaliation, or even abusing their power. Those negative actions further complicate the process of creating a culture of accountability in organizations. Consider a scenario where a high-level administrator is found to have violated organizational policies. When confronted by their team members about this misconduct, instead of acknowledging their own mistakes and working towards a resolution, they may lash out at their subordinates, questioning their loyalty or professionalism. Those negative actions not only undermine the accountability processes, but it can also create a toxic work environment. Term limits can prevent the consolidation of power. By instituting those term limits, the organization ensures that individuals do not become entrenched in their powerful positions, preventing the accumulation of excessive influence and power. Moreover, term limits serve as a safeguard against the development of a sense of entitlement among long-serving leaders. When leaders know that their time in a particular role is finite, they are more likely to remain grounded and accountable, avoiding complacency or the temptation to bend rules for personal gain. Alongside term limits, creating an organizational culture that values humility, continuous learning, and respect for all members regardless of their position can also help mitigate the negative effects of power. Encouraging open dialogue, promoting diversity of viewpoints, and ensuring that all voices are heard can contribute to a more balanced and effective decision-making environment. An important task for leaders is to not only make decisions as individuals, but also create a psychological environment that empowers team members to make well-informed, high-quality decisions and communicate their decisions to the next decision makers in the organization. The overarching objective is to use the collective decision-making power to propel the organization to achieve its goals. Simon's book also introduced intuition in decision-making. In my recently published book, Leaders' Decision-Making and Neuroscience, What Are You Thinking? I dedicated an entire chapter to introduce intuitive decision-making and the role of gut feelings. If you are interested, give it a read.